Hey guys, I'm back here on a drive, going to do something fun because entrepreneurs can take off and do whatever they want, whenever they want, except when customers say, come help me, and when your significant others say, come help. Okay, so we can't really go wherever we want, whenever we want, but we are today. So Glenn, I'm in the car with Glenn, and last night he texted me and said, let's go for a long hike. And I said, hold my beer, let's do it. So this time he's driving, so I won't run off the road as I try to use this phone or record. And what we're going to cover mostly is being an entrepreneur in the idea of rental properties, being a landlord, and so forth, as well as he's got a little bit of fitness stuff to share because, we do talk that. If I had a name for this podcast, it would be helping you live that better life, ... and then insert anything. Right now, it typically happens to be a lot of health and fitness, but it could be anything. I plan on talking about Bitcoin, the Lightning Network, and Nostr, which most of you are like, what is that? But you should know something about it. So I have done rental property or entrepreneur stuff in the past, and weirdly, I think 50% of the people in our gym are entrepreneurs of some type, which is amazing to me that there are so many entrepreneurs in there. So anyway, one of the biggest questions I get about health and fitness is, how do you start a rental business? I'm like, that's not, okay, whatever. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about rentals. So Glenn, finally, you get to say something.
Something.
Yeah.
Hello, Andy. Hello, world.
Let's start with this. Give us a little bit of your, give us a little bit of your fitness history, since this is primarily going to people who care about fitness.
Sure.
What do you do? Why did you say, hey, Andy, let's go for a long hike? Why is that on your list?
Well, thanks for asking. Hello, everybody. So I'm between jobs this week, so I've got a week gap, just left a gig and starting a new gig next week, and thought it would be awesome to go out with my buddy Andy and get a little exercise and enjoy the beautiful spring weather here in Georgia. So I like to just stay active. We're not getting any younger, and so from my perspective, that's probably the best way to stay fit is just to have a
stay active, right?
A compass, yeah. Have a compass and realize, hey, we otherwise have sedentary lives. I sit behind a computer all day for my day job, and so when I have time to get out and exercise, I force myself to do it. So,
well, and this isn't the first big hike. Not that we're doing a tremendously big hike, but Evan and his buddies are going to Stone Mountain, and you're like, hey, let's do a hike. And I'm like, I wonder what he's going to say. And then you're like, let's hike Blood Mountain. I'm like, yeah, that's not ominous or easy.
Don't let the name scare you.
Yeah,
You've done it before.
So, of course, I'm like, how do I rearrange my schedule to make this happen tomorrow? Because tomorrow is the only day I can do it because, well, that's what happens when you're an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. You actually don't get any time off.
That's true.
So why these big hikes? You like big stuff. Like, this isn't the first one. I've been jealous when you and your buddies go on the really big ones. And I'm like, cry, where was I? And
well, I wouldn't say really big ones, but we've done some overnights. We still like backpacking. You and I have backpacked. It's been a minute, but
remember when we took Evan and Levi?
I do remember Evan and Levi. You took them, and they got it rained, and I don't know how old they were. They were much younger, and at least one of them pooped out at one point, and
not in his pants.
No, that's a good thing to clarify. But ran out of gas, but that could be construed differently as well. But got extremely tired, and you put them on your back with your backpack that we'd been backpacking in for a couple of days, and I was like, that's an impressive individual.
That's CrossFit. That's CrossFit. That
probably is CrossFit.
And years of soccer or wrestling, I don't know, but yeah, that's delicious.
I would have had a different response to my child if they would have asked, put me on your back while I'm carrying a 40-pound backpack.
That might have been around the time when I realized, as a soccer dad, I was a jackass, and I'd be like, I need to calm down. And so I think I made a ref cry, or maybe a baby cry. I don't know. I did something. Yep. And that might have been the time where I was like, I should take a different approach to adversity. Mm-hmm. So I tell my kids all the time, the only choice you really get in life is to decide how you're going to react to the stimulus around you.
I like that.
And so they can take all your other freedoms away except for your decision to process. And so I'm like, okay, I should process this differently. But so the other hike we did, so one day Glenn's like, hey, let's go hike. Actually, I think it was Blood Mountain again, wasn't it? At least that's where we started. Because we ended up at that mountain crossing.
We did finished in mountain crossings. I want to say we started maybe at the. Did we start at the at Springer Mountain?
I don't know, but so
yeah, but we did go over Blood. We went over Blood Mountain the other way.
Yeah,
going north instead of today. We're going south.
So we parked one car somewhere, then we parked the other car. Or no, we were going to have someone drive us. Whatever. We parked the car, and we have these, somewhat packs on us because we're going to stay out there a day or two or whatever it was.
Yep.
And we cross the road and we enter into the thoroughfare of trees, like just the covered path that is the AT. Mm-hmm. And it's uphill, like you're going upstairs, and you take off.
Yes.
And I think to myself, oh dear goodness gracious, I don't know what I got myself into. Yep. I do CrossFit. And so I can do most things generally okay, but when it's specific, like let's go hiking for seriousness, and you took off.
Yeah. And this is sadly a pattern with me. So I'm 50 years old, and I'm finally starting to recognize that, slow and steady wins the race.
Oh yeah.
And that day wasn't thinking that. I don't know what I was thinking that day, but I've had a pattern.
Well, I had a shock collar on you, and I was shocking you every time I got close. So no, I don't know. So segue there, but I'm going to come back to it. I'm the king of tangent. If you listen to me and Cam talk, I can't. Yeah. So slow and steady wins the race. Yep. That is it. And so for all of those out there, when we get to the part when we talk about investing in real estate and becoming a landlord, slow and steady.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Wins the race. So
going back to that story, just finishing it up.
Well, we're totally coming back.
Yeah. Is that I took off. Andy, who we all know is in great shape, was way behind because I was literally just running up the mountain. And by the time we got back up the other mountain, I was literally about ready to pass out. I've never felt like that in my entire life. And I was like, I'm sorry, buddy. Like,
I have that effect on people.
Running away from you? I don't know.
They passing out, and you're me.
Passing out, yeah. So, Andy.
And when I finally did catch up to you, your face was caked in sweat. I'm like, wow, the only person I have seen that sweaty is a buddy, Alan Sears. When we went hiking AT, I was like, I think the deer would like to lick your face. Right. He was so salty.
Yeah. I don't know what the medical term is, but I was done.
Super salty.
Yes.
It's very medical.
We hung out there at mountain crossings for a while, ate a lot of food, drank a lot of Gatorade, tried to get my body rebooted, and it just wasn't working. So Andy was cool. He found a shuttle driver that took us back to our cars.
That's right. That's how we got back. I couldn't remember how.
I must have said 1,000 times, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And you were
whatever.
You were the epitome of a good friend. You could have shamed the hell out of me.
Oh, I am right now on this podcast. That's right. I'm going to edit some stuff in
20
here.
20 years later.
I don't know how to edit this stuff. But so funny. So I've seen this a lot, and it's happened to me. So a buddy of mine, Eric Richards, who actually was one of the co-founders of CrossFit Garage, it was actually his brainchild, but here I am running the thing. We did an adventure race, and he did not take the electrolyte pills. I don't remember why he decided not to, if he forgot or if it was a thing, but he's like, oh no, my legs are like seizing up. They're like, they're stiff. I can't like push down on the bike pedals. What do we do? I'm like, I guess take some of these pills. And so we have the hammer pills, hammer and dirt lights. And pun intended, he started hammering them. I'm like, I don't know, you might start peeing like crystallized salt now. You've had so many. I don't know if this is like healthy.
Yeah.
He's like, whatever. And so he was taking them and drinking lots of water. He was just like drinking lake water, whatever it was. I was like a little concerned about the after effects.
Yeah.
But he's the only person that I've ever seen come out of in a race, electrolyte deficiency, right? Like I am cramped. What do I do? Usually it's end of your race. And so he downed it. So anyway, last February, Randy Skeen joined us in the Swamp Fox, which is a flat race. And I'm like, hey, do you want some electrolyte pills? And he's like, nah, hold my beer. So he didn't actually say that. I messed them all up by saying, I think this is like a little 20-minute circuit. You can probably leave your backpack, so we'll be back quick. Turns out it was 2 hours. No one on my team had water or food or electrolytes, so my fault. And so I sort of crashed my own team on accident. And he looked at me in the middle of the race, and he's like, or near the end, he's like, hey, you should probably just leave me. I don't think I can make it. I'm like, it's not that type of race, man. Just come on, we'll do this.
Never leave a man behind.
Yeah, so he started electrolyting up and drinking all the water, and I started off, of course, knowing me, I started off stupid. I'm like, hey man, do you trust me? He's like, sure. I said, take all your clothes off. And he looked at me, I said, just your shirt. Give me your backpack.
Right.
Yeah. So it never hurts to laugh. It makes you feel better. And,
Of course.
Then you start,
Yeah. At the end of the day, you do have to laugh at this stuff. But when you're out there as a guy, it's like, man, I should have known better. So I have a bad pattern doing really, really dumb stuff. My ex-wife, who hopefully won't be listening to this, said on my gravestone, a man who didn't know his limits. And I was
that can be good though, in a good way.
I mean, it depends how you look at it. But I've with the whole hiking thing, I've really started to try and be a little bit more smart. Like I put on sunscreen today, and I probably will stretch. And I didn't used to do any of that crap. And I'll go at a reasonable pace today. And I brought a ton of water. So after doing enough stupid stuff in life, you hope you don't kind of reach the definition of insanity and do the same thing over, expecting different results. So for me, it's just like, all right, you screwed up. That's what I tell people that have worked for me in the past. And I tell myself, it's okay to screw up. Just try not to do it over and over again, because that can be really painful for all of us.
That's right.
So,
and it's an interesting kind of like that precept is good in like all of life, of which hopefully we will tell you guys some things you can do today so that you don't have to stick your tongue in the socket. You can just learn from us.
That's right.
But many times you have to get your tongue in the socket, especially when it's your own kid. So I love these psychology terms. One of them is called the proximity bias. Mm-hmm. So you can't tell people close to you something important. They're not going to believe it.
That's right.
But if you have a coach or a mentor or a random person on a podcast says it, then you're like, oh wow, guess what I heard today? You should start investing in real estate early.
Absolutely. Yes. And this is why my kids never listen to me. Right. But then they'll go listen to someone else. Yeah. It's like, I just said that. Okay. All right.
So it took me a while to, usually on the soccer field with the kids, it took me a while to get over when the coach said what I said. Mm-hmm. I'd be like, that's what I said. You guys are grounded. You're going to live in a box. Yeah. I would just get all sorts of mad and angry and whatever. And so finally I was able to go, hey, that's great advice. How can I help? Mm-hmm. And it hurt my soul.
Yeah.
But I guess that was pride. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. But you're like, however they get there, if they don't want to listen to me, listen to somebody else. But that's interesting. Proximity bias.
Proximity bias. We tell people, so we do this summer strength for kids and middle school and high school. And then Levi's doing a swole 60 for skinny teenage boys. Mm-hmm. And I've talked to many parents on the phone. I'm like, look, we're not going to tell them anything that, one, they can't find on the internet, and two, that you haven't already said. Yep. The difference is I'm going to say it, and it's not you. And they're going to believe it. And so I'm going to say, eat more protein. You're going to be like, I have told him that for years. I'm like, I know, but it's me. So, right. Or it's Levi. So it's just funny. But so all those, what is the other ones? Like Prisoner's Dilemma or Game Theory. Mm-hmm. The show Survivor is all about that cooperation for a secondary result rather than competition for the first spot, right? So that stuff's pretty fascinating. Or the Sophie's Choice, any of those things. Or Dunbar's Number. You ever heard of that one?
I had not.
So especially with social media coming out, they say it's really hard to get over 150 intimate relationships. So at around 150, people tap out, and it's just you start to degrade every relationship because you can't hold on.
150 seems like a high number.
And I guess the definition of intimate, I don't know. Like, I know your birthday, and I can rattle off your kids' names, maybe. Yeah. I don't know what their specific measurement was, but they talk about it like there's gypsy societies that still exist that when they get to about 150 families, they split into more like smaller units. Yeah. But CrossFit gyms are typically capped at the 100 to 150 number. And it's hard to break through those. Okay. And so, of course, Dunbar's Number comes up a whole lot.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's weird. But, okay, so into property and real estate. You started collecting money for your real estate adventure back at Georgia Tech.
Theoretically, yeah.
Right?
Theoretically,
So I guess we should say that. Glenn, actually, how do we know each other?
So we are friends from back at Georgia Tech. I guess we probably got to know each other because my ex-wife and your wife, I wouldn't say current wife, your wife, and hopefully your only wife.
Verity will never listen to this, so we can say whatever.
Okay.
And actually, so she's on a trip, again, tangents. She's on a trip to Florida?
Okay.
And no, not Florida with a question mark. Florida for sure. It's Miami. So I know exactly where she's going. So I am that husband that knows. No, I don't. But like 5 ladies piled into a car. I'm like, this is going to be a great time. Mm-hmm. I should send them a podcast of the garage, like us talking about stuff, because she hates it when people knows anything about like what we do at home or whatever. But anyway, yeah, so she is off doing some adventurous thing. So yes, we met when they were both
roommates.
Alpha Chi's, right?
Sort
of-ish, that's how they met.
I don't know, it was probably less the sorority thing. Probably they may have met originally in the sorority, and that's how they became roommates. But and then
was Stephanie roommates with them?
Stephanie was also roommates. So that's how I ended up. You already knew Cam.
Yep.
But
who has a podcast earlier.
Yep.
And y'all should go listen to that. It was pretty funny and tangential.
Yep. So, and then my friend from high school, Jeff, who also went to Georgia Tech, knew you guys through some type of weird connection. So we all just, and then we've got
He's the guy that brought
Charlie.
the rubber gloves when I had the 9-iron and the ice cubes. And I was like, yeah, let's do this thing.
There you go.
So he and I roomed together.
You and Jeff, that's true.
Yeah,
that's
with,
true.
with Cam and Rob.
So some interesting, and then Charlie is obviously, Charlie Charles is obviously your brother. So that's how the group of 5 friends got to know each other, and now 20-something plus years later, we're still hanging out.
And so you graduated Tech with what degree?
I got out, as they would call
That's
it,
true.
in '96 with a imaginary engineering degree.
Industrial engineering.
Yeah.
So it's funny, at Georgia Tech, like you would go, like people would enter in as like chemical engineer and then change to industrial engineer. As if that was the easy option. I'm like, it's still really hard, it's still engineering.
Technically, yeah, it's the engineering of nothing. It's the engineering of like efficient processes, and technically if you're going to work in a plant, you know, you put together like, warehouse product delivery systems and
processes
things like that.
Procedures?
Yeah, exactly.
So unfortunately, he no longer works for this company called DataScan, which the one thing they did not do,
they didn't
scan any data whatsoever.
Data. It was a big scam. Big scam. It was a big Ponzi scheme.
I am a fan of just naming things what they are. My kids hate it. They're like, that's not very original. I'm like, CrossFit Garage. Mm-hmm. We do CrossFit, and we're in a building that has a garage door. It's CrossFit Garage. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
McCann Rentals. It's me, Andy McCann, and we rent houses.
Right.
Yes. Like, Dad, those are so stupid. I'm like, yes, but if someone's driving down the road and they see Timmy's, you're like, what do they do? I don't know. Let's just keep going.
Yes.
So you want to, like, locksmith.
Yeah.
Guess what I do? I am a locksmith. So I'm a fan of Super Bowl, like the Varsity. I mean, I get it. We all know what that is now. But I would think the Varsity is like high school gear, like leather jackets.
Yep.
And that's not what it is at all.
They make greasy burgers.
Yeah, I didn't know they had one up here. I thought they had one in Athens, but
they have one. Obviously had one near Tech. They have one at North Point, went out of business, and they got that one. But anyway, so going back to your original question, so we've known each other since Tech, and I started. I've always wanted to be some type of entrepreneur. When I was back at Tech, I was even thinking about, how do I, I've got this engineering gig going on, but I've always had a kind of an itch to be my own boss, and you get married and you have kids and all that responsibility. You're like, steady paycheck doesn't seem like a irresponsible thing to do. So you get kind of working for the man for a number of years. But now I've gotten to the point where, to your point, I've built up some assets over a period of time and don't want to put all of the eggs in one basket, stock market or whatever. So I was like, hey, real estate, they say, seems like a pretty good investment. So
weirdly, people need to, if I could sell air, I would.
People actually need to live in places at the end of the day.
That's
You need shelter, food, water, and shelter. So
what made you decide, like, hey, rental property? Was there a book or a podcast, or just I hear a lot about it and I'm going to get into it?
Yeah, I mean, I've read up on a lot of, whenever I get into anything, I kind of just like to educate myself either through the interweb or, buying books and things like that. So,
because you have a process for what you do, which is totally different than what I do.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
I do want to get into that a little bit, like so we have different ways of doing basically the same thing.
Yeah, you're more go ready set. I like to be the more traditional.
So mine is minimize as much risk as possible.
Yep.
So I want no leverage, no debt, super safe. So if the world took a weird turn, I don't really care.
Yep.
So in many cases that would slow down the growth of what I'm trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
So risk brings reward.
Yep.
And if I want the lack of risk, then I need to reduce my reward.
Right.
So have you read the book Psychology of Money that just came out? Maybe not just, but it's...
No.
Okay. Fascinating book. Oh, actually, I think I texted it to our group.
Okay.
Awesome book. It has some... Well, I think it's awesome because it agrees with some of the things I've had in the back of my head. Mm-hmm. So that's confirmation bias. That's another
that
one.
is confirmation bias. I know that one.
Yeah. So it confirmed what I think is true, therefore it must be true. So it may not be good, but I've had it. The book was given to me. I'm dyslexic. I don't read much, but I then got it on Audible, and I listened to it at times 2 speed because I talk at times 2 speed.
Yep.
So I know this messes everybody up. There's a lot of people who try to listen to their podcasts at times 2. Because I talk too fast, they have to drop it back down. Yeah, I know. I should.
There you go.
Slow down.
Quarter speed.
I can't.
Quarter speed always
But
for Andy.
fascinating book. So it basically, well, there's a lot of things it says, but in this idea, it says, when you're younger and you have nothing to lose, take those risks. Mm-hmm. But when you reach about 50 or 60, you need the magic of compound interest to do its job.
Yep.
So the reason Warren Buffett is going to be the richest man forever for a long time, or whatever, I don't know if he's the richest, but way up there, is because he's been investing long enough that compound interest covers all of his mistakes, right? So he makes more in the interest profile than most people make in their entire investment, like in their lifetime, because he's way past us.
Sure.
So it's weird. And the other one that I thought was super fascinating, he's like, in baseball, when you hit a home run, it's only worth 4. In business, or sorry, if there's bases are loaded, let me back that up. If the bases are loaded, you hit a home run. Yeah, like I don't know.
Out, I was like,
you know
what
me.
kind of rules are you playing
Me and
by?
baseball and sports, the most it can ever be worth is 4, right? Because you got the bases loaded, you hit it, 4 people run in. I think there's 4. Yeah, because the guy who hit it. Yeah, I don't play any sports. Yeah. I do play pickleball poorly, but so. In business, when you hit a home run, it can be 10x. It could be 100x.
That's right.
You just don't know. So take a lot of risks and try a lot of things early on.
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to tell my kids, do something in the STEM world because technology tends to breed more invention and revolution.
Yep.
And aim towards software because information now is the king. Yep. And if you can manipulate the data to say or do whatever you need it to do for people, they'll pay you for it.
That's right.
And it doesn't even have to be that much money. So, and then when you do software, what do I need to buy? Well, nothing. It's just my time. Mm-hmm. So your sunk cost is time, which when you're a kid, 20-year-old, you have a lot of time.
Yep.
But what you don't have of is money.
That's right.
So how much does it cost to invest in your gaming computer? Oh, I already have it. Mm-hmm. Can I program on it? Yes, because it's a gaming computer.
Yep.
And it's just, late nights doing your tappity-tap.
Yep. Build up those skills and that intellectual capital and, the financial capital will come eventually. Yep.
So when did you buy, rental property stuff. We're going to get into it. Tell you guys kind of how we did it, why we do it different, and if it's working for us. When did you buy into your first, it's an asset, I am making money on this property?
Yep. So,
or I guess it could have been a loser that you were waiting for.
Yeah.
Because that's a way to do it, which I don't like. But
I do not have the portfolio that you have. I aspire to someday.
Oh, that's it. Many people say that about me.
Yes, I aspire.
They're like, yes.
Be much like Andy and so many.
Usually when I walk down Woodstock, the Boulevard, they're like, "Wow, look at that guy. He's so big. He must be on steroids."
Yeah,
they never say that.
Yeah. So, got my first rental property a few years ago in Athens, Georgia.
Okay, so this is important. A few years ago, it's not like 20 years ago.
Nope.
You just turned 50, 51?
50.
Sorry, I just did that too. I was actually at your party, so I should know that. But
right.
I'm almost 50 as well, so I don't even know your name, Timmy.
All right.
Yeah, I can't even remember anything. So,
that's fair.
A few years ago is what?
I bought that in what year is it now? 2020?
So there's another lesson to all you kids if you're listening. Yeah, this is real. You're like, wow, I'm 50? How did that happen?
Literally losing track of years.
So 2020.
Yep, 2020.
So right in the middle of that little stay-at-home vacation we all had. Perfect.
Yep. So
it's in Athens.
It was in Athens.
And it's specifically, there's a cop. Hi, cop. Are we doing okay?
Yeah. So
did you hide the methamphetamines?
Yeah, I had just finished watching Breaking Bad. I was
took that out.
This could be a good place to get access to lots of customers, and
So
No.
you're renting to students, or is your market anybody?
So the reason I liked Athens, Georgia, is I could go either way.
Okay.
I could rent to students, and I've got one property that's a student rental.
Yep.
And I've got another one that's a little farther off campus, and because of that, it tends to attract more like young professionals. They're both, one's a condo, one's a townhouse that's,
Okay, so a condo is sandwiched on all four sides?
Yeah, I've always
and a townhome is on the left and right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So that's why that may not be the true definition.
I don't know either. I was just
the way I defined it is, my townhouse goes, its square footage goes up.
You have stairs.
I have stairs, and then my condo is almost like, an apartment building where it's
that's good. It's an apartment, but you own it. There you go. That's a great way to say it.
So, that condo is close to campus. It's right near Greek Row, so college kids love it because they can go party with their friends and stumble back to the condo, and it's just we can charge great rent for it. We spent a little bit of money to fix it up so we could drive up the rents. And the first one I got actually because my daughter was looking for some
let me
housing.
pause right there.
Yes.
So we're gonna go on that, but this is fascinating. If you're going to increase your rates, you need to do something to improve it first.
Right.
So at our gym, we saw them pressure washing and painting.
Yep.
I'm like, hey guys, guess what's coming? They're like, what? I'm like, we're about to get hammered with rent. And sure enough, they're like, hey, we're gonna bump your rent up $1,200 in October. I'm like, man, $1,200 is a huge jump.
Yep.
So like, you basically from $4,000 to $5,000 or something like that. I'm like, ow, this is gonna be yummy. But I knew it. I saw them cleaning it up. I'm like, yeah, dang it, put lipstick on the pig.
That's what you got to do. And so it's called driving equity into property. So you do some sort of improvements, and if you do the right improvements, you should drive the equity up equal to roughly what you paid, if not a little bit more. So that's why it's good to buy like properties that need some work, because you could put some money into it and either flip it, or you can drive up rents or whatever you want to do. So we wanted to drive rents up. There was a lot of it's a 1984 condo, and there's a lot of things that just needed to get done. So we put in new flooring and new cabinets and new countertops.
The LVP flooring?
Put in LVP. It was fantastic stuff.
So here's things for you guys to consider. Nuggets. I have single-family homes, and typically when someone moves out, if they've only been there for 2 or 3 years, I'll just get the carpets cleaned really well. Mm-hmm. Most of my people stay forever because it's weird. Just don't be a jerk and treat people like people, and they'll stay.
Yep.
And so I had somebody, now when they move out, it's usually been like 10 plus years. So do I rip out the carpet, put new carpet in, or pay the higher price and do the, what is LVP?
Luxury vinyl plank.
So it looks like a hardwood floor, feels kind of like a hardwood floor, but it's just like snap and go.
Yep, and it's scratch resistant. I mean, it just lasts forever.
You'll pay twice as much, but I'll never, well, not never, but I probably won't change it for 30 years.
Yeah. Well, technically, the nice thing about it is it's cheaper than hardwoods, but it's much lower maintenance. It doesn't necessarily have the warmth of hardwoods. It looks like a manufactured product, but it looks pretty darn close.
It looks pretty close. And so those are those things that you need to put in there. Like, do I do that? Well, I mean, when I was starting off, I didn't have the money to drop, like, I don't know, $20,000 to redo the entire house.
Right.
Whereas carpet would be like $5,000.
Yeah.
Or maybe $10,000, whatever. Yeah. But you're like, yeah, fine, whatever, let's do the carpet. But I would suggest putting money aside to do these things when they come up.
Yep. Yeah. And that's what we'll probably do. So we did that to drive up rent for that property. For the townhouse, it's hardwoods all on the first floor and the steps go on the second floor. Mm-hmm. And then it's carpet up there. And I think it's the original carpet.
Okay.
But it's still in decent shape. So we just moved
from 84. So it's like deep shag kind of carpet that's like brown or orange. That orange kind of like.
That one was like 2005. So
it's a couch with corduroys on it.
Yeah. With 84 was pretty nasty carpet. So we were like, this has got to go.
But the music was good.
Yeah. This is true. Disco lights and all.
We had it all.
So yeah, I mean,
my kid went to school today in bell bottoms. And I didn't know that was like back so hardcore.
It's totally
back. I mean,
I
missed.
I can't wrap my brain around that style. But
I mean, it looks cute. But I'm like, maybe I'll wear them. And she's like, don't you dare. I'm like, all right, so only one.
To each their own. Yeah, I don't think I can get
it.
away with bell bottoms, nor would I want to. So yeah, real estate. I have just 2 rental properties in Athens. My fiance has a short-term rental in Bradenton Beach, Florida, which Andy got to see when we went.
It was pretty awesome.
Did a guy's weekend
We even
away.
did some repairing down there.
And we did.
So we probably could have written it off because we fixed something.
Well, we weren't actually. It was a free condo to us for the week. But,
I could have written the airplane ticket off.
Yeah, that's true.
Written.
You probably could have.
Okay,
yeah.
so there's something that I guess maybe go into it later, but we'll do it right now. Is if you have a rental property, do you keep the title in your name or do you put it into an LLC?
We are in the process of trying to put all of ours. I want to say that sounds like a big number.
I love it. Like
4,000. Our 3 rental properties,
4,000.
and aspiring to be much more into our LLC, just for probably more for liability purposes, so that if something happened, we write our leases pretty tight so that if somebody does something dumb that they can't come back and sue us.
Yeah.
But you never know. So
hey, get a good lease.
Yes.
That's for sure. And if you ever need one, I'm happy to. I have mine on a Google Doc.
Yep.
So I will give you mine, and I rewrite it all the time.
I've seen yours, and I
just rewrote it so that if they don't like I think it was like spelled out, you must change the HVAC filter. If you're not going to change it, just don't put a filter in there. Because it's not doing anything. If it's caked on there for 2 years, you're blowing out my motor.
And you have to think about all that stuff.
Light bulbs, that is you.
Yep.
Don't make. Come over and change my light bulb. I'm like, no.
My in the student rental property, because I know the way students can go a little crazy sometimes. It was new granite countertops, and I specifically put in there, do not stand on the countertops, do not sit on the countertops. It's a stone, right? So it'll crack.
Oh, yeah.
And also, it's a porous stone. We paid for it to be sealed. But I basically just said, if you jack up these countertops, you're paying for them, right?
And they won't. They'll leave.
Common sense would say that most people wouldn't stand on the countertops or do other stuff, but college kids can be stupid. So I had to think, all right, I say can be stupid. No offense to college kids out there.
Oh, offense,
but,
baby. I'm in.
When you're long, when I was a college kid, I was stupid.
And we were at Georgia Tech where the smart kids are.
Right. But
and we still did stupid stuff.
Book smarts does not equate to street smarts, though. So people can still
enter beer.
Yes, exactly. Alcohol will definitely.
I think I can jump off of that.
Right.
Okay, so the other thing is if you do put them into an LLC, a couple good things. One is it's limited liability corporation. It protects you against being sued against other stuff. So let's say you have 10 houses, put each house into their own LLC. Then for tax purposes, have those LLCs owned by a parent LLC.
Right.
Then you can just file the taxes as one. You don't have to break them all up.
Is that what you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we just shove everything in there. So even like our parent LLC owns the CrossFit Garage. I don't actually own it. But I mean, in the end, I own the parent LLC.
Okay.
But that way, everything's broken up into their own bits. So if anything stupid happens, and they, we have insurance policies or whatever, but they can't attack like multiple assets or whatever.
Yeah, I like that. My only concern: how do you manage? And I guess we could take this offline.
No, yeah.
How do you manage the expenses of filing your corporate minutes and the overhead of each LLC? Does that not tend to get
poorly?
I didn't want the headache nor the expense of managing multiple LLCs, but I have read about where people do what you do, because that way, if someone sues the LLC and your LLC is an umbrella LLC, like the way we're planning on doing ours now, they could go after all the assets under the LLC. So while you have protection against your own personal assets, your LLC could get trashed.
Right.
And so I get why some people do it. It just seems like a lot of work.
So I have a team of people. It sounds sexy, a team of people, but it's just I hired a CPA to do all that stuff.
Okay.
So I asked them, do you know how to do this? They're like, yes. I'm like, perfect, you're hired. So ask the right questions. I also keep I'm kind of old school in it. I just have a Google sheet, a spreadsheet that I log all the expenses. And one of the columns is, which house number is it? Or is it the gym? Something like that, right? If I'm buying something outside of the gym, has its own bookkeeper and all that. So that one I keep super separate because I employ people, and I just don't want them to ever think, "Hey, that guy's taking all the money." Matter of fact, I don't take any money, which is sad. But I'll change that eventually one day. COVID really, put a monkey in the wrench. No,
Yep.
wrench in the monkey. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
So the other thing, I guess, another tangent. Do an LLC, and that'll protect you. But also buy a umbrella insurance policy, just as a catch-all. You'll have to have insurance anyway, but buy an umbrella. Now, if I weirdly didn't know this until they upsold me and they told me why, and I researched it and they were correct. If you buy $1 million umbrella policy, they just pay out. And there's no fight. You're like, wait, I wasn't even guilty. They're like, it's just $1 million, whatever.
Is that on your personal insurance, or is that tied to your LLC?
That's a good question. I think it's tied to the parent LLC.
Okay.
And
I'd be interested to talk about that. I have an umbrella. I have $1 million umbrella, and a prior coworker told me about that because his wife basically was driving one day and was like at a four-way stop, and someone was going across a crosswalk, didn't see him, ran him over.
Yeah.
Person was fine.
Yeah.
But they sued, and to your point, because the person's lawyer found out that they were covered under an umbrella policy, they just went after the insurance company.
That's
the
it.
insurance company settled.
Okay.
And they basically like, whew,
Yeah.
all right, don't have to worry about the fact that they could have came after my house and everything else.
Yeah.
They just...
That's a good point. I think it is in my name. I'll go double check that for some other later day.
I would be interested to kind of find out about that, because it would be nice if your umbrella policy covered your business
because I own
on
it.
top of if like one of your kids or something or you went out, and that's the thing is if you put it on your personal insurance plan, it covers anybody who's covered like in your cars and stuff. So one of your kids goes out and gets in an accident, says, "Oh, I'm going to go sue Dad."
Right.
They basically just go after the umbrella policy, and it's cheap. I don't know how much.
No, it's like $20 a month or something like that, or something less than that. It's something stupidly low because the actuarial table says, well, they're not really ever going to use it.
Right.
So $1 million, they come after the insurance and nobody fights. $5 million, they still just come after the insurance, and the insurance people are just like, whatever, here's the money, just go away.
Right.
So we got a $10 million policy because they fight. They're like, no. But again, this was probably like 10 years ago, so 10 million may not be the number anymore because somebody's messing with the money, which is a whole other episode on Bitcoin.
Yep.
That'll be coming. Okay.
But life hack on that one, if people listening to this take nothing away, talk to your insurance agent about getting an umbrella policy. Even if you're not into business, get one for yourself. Get one that takes care of your family. You will not regret it. Hopefully, you never get in a situation.
Well, it's insurance, just in case.
But it's like anything else in life. It's like whether you believe in having a gun at home or life insurance or other types of insurance. It's all protection against something that you hope never comes up in life. And but umbrella policies, I don't think they teach that stuff in school, and I didn't know until I was in my 40s. I was like, what the heck is this, and why the heck have I been exposed and not, had for as cheap as it is? So anyway, everybody get an umbrella policy. Do it right now. Call your insurance provider.
I can calculate.
I get paid nothing for saying that.
Yeah, that's true. No, I'm paying you, baby.
Public service announcement.
I'm paying you.
All right.
So I can calculate the trajectory of a cannonball shot with a 10 Newton force.
I believe you can.
At a 30-degree angle.
I would.
But nobody ever told me to buy a insurance policy.
Yeah.
So
many things they don't teach you in high school. That's one of the big tragedies from my perspective. Is there's so many life lessons that kids go off into the world when they become adults, 17, 18, whatever, and they don't know how to. People don't really have checkbooks right now, but they don't know how to, manage a budget. They don't understand credit cards. They don't understand, they don't understand how to change a tire. Basic things that everybody at some point in life is going to have to run in to do. Anyway, so, if there are parents out there, because the school system is failing, make sure your kids know how to do that stuff.
That's right.
To be responsible adults going out in the world. Anyway, way off on tangents.
No, we like tangents. And weirdly, we're getting a lot of listens. So I joke about the 3 people, but it's actually in the hundreds that weirdly found us. And I got people from like Australia that are downloading because Buzzsprout will show you where they download from.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm like that. Hello, mate. I don't know how they found us, but whatever. So
will they hang up if I tell them to put a shrimp on the barbecue? They probably will.
Probably will. Or if you say Outback is real Australian food, Outback Steakhouse. That's what I mean.
We just went down.
Yeah, they're like, we're out of here.
We just lost an entire continent.
These guys are idiots.
Yep.
Yes, that is true, but we still have good information. Okay, so a buddy of ours asked, I'm going to kind of go through some of these questions, make sure we get some extra points in there, but I do long-term rentals. Do you do any short-term, like Airbnb type stuff?
I would so Sharon has a short term. It's kind of short term. In Florida, the building.
Oh yeah, we were just down there.
Where Florida, I think maybe the local regulations, you can't make them less than a week. So relatively short-term rentals. I do not have any. I'm desperately trying to find a property to dip my toes into short-term rentals because I think
so if you're looking to sell something and you're listening and you're in the location
go
area.
to my website, sprinklescapital.com.
Oh, you have a website for that.
We do. That's our LLC and our website.
Is that for like the dogs that sprinkle? No.
Yeah, there's a whole story behind that. Probably not even time from the podcast. Sprinkles Capital is the name of the LLC. We do have a website, and I encourage you to visit and say hello. And if you'd like to get into a real estate investment opportunity, please reach out because we're always interested in investors and partners and all types of stuff. So
that's interesting. I didn't even know. Actually, I did know you had that, but I'm 50 and I forgot.
There you go.
So yes, that's why we're doing this show is a promo for your. No, that is a good thing. Is if you can partner up. So that's,
shameless plug for Sprinkles Capital.
And if you can, so it's. I tell people all the time, if you want to shortcut the process, then hire a coach or a mentor, right? And technically, if you go in with someone like that, you are the coach and the mentor. Like, I have cash, I don't know what I'm doing.
I'd hopefully would provide you some expertise on how to get into this, and you would provide resources of some type, capital, and we would go into a mutually beneficial opportunity.
Slightly better for me than you. No. Yeah. So there's a fellow at the gym, Aaron Vincent, who owns Vincent Financial. Again, crazy, right? It's financial. That's what we do. Vincent, I love that. Like, just name it what it is.
Simple.
It's simple, right?
As opposed to doing something stupid like Sprinkles Capital.
No. Hey,
absolutely no sense.
That's a good point.
It's fun.
I just digged you. Sorry.
Yes,
I didn't really mean
my
to.
My fiance Sharon and I want to do something fun, so it
that
doesn't
can
make
be
as
fun.
much sense. But
there's probably a tagline helping you make investment property better than it was.
Sprinkling a little bit of real estate love into the world. No,
there you go. I like that.
I literally just made that up.
Okay.
But
that's a good one.
We haven't gotten around to a tagline yet, but. So we do not have short-term. We have a 1 week vacation rental down on the beach in Bradenton Beach, Florida, and then the other two are long-term rentals. But I would love to get into a Airbnb or VRBO type of gig just because it's lucrative. I think one of our friends asked kind of like what the difference is. From my perspective, short-term rentals, higher reward. Higher risk, which is often the case with any type of investment you do. So,
again, if you're young, this is the way to go. High risk, high reward.
Yeah, I think for young folks, it would probably be really, really smart. It's a lot more work because a lot more maintenance potentially because just the wear and tear of people constantly coming in and out. Things can break. People don't necessarily treat it as their home, so they can do stupid things or careless things.
But we already established college students are going to do that to your place.
But you could still get that with a long-term rental, right? Which I'm dealing with my college
So
rental.
the thing that I have found in the long-term rental with the stupid stuff is they hide the stupid stuff until it's time to check out. You're like, hey, nice hole in the wall. They're like, yeah, I did that 10 years ago. And you're like, well, I guess thanks for not making me fix it.
Nice thing about that, though, is you always get the security deposit. So.
Or I had somebody like, hey, there's a bit of a water spot up here. Yeah, that started 10 years ago. I'm like, really? So the roof's been leaking for 10 years and you didn't think to like say, hey, the roof's been leaking for 10 years. Like,
But again, going back to a good lease, the lease says if something goes bad and you don't promptly report it and then it gets worse, it's on you. So it could be plumbing, it could be
The trick for that is they can just walk away and then you're like, I'm going to sue you. And they're like, good luck with that. So I actually had one of my very first renters. They owed me a lot of back rent. And so I took them to court and my mom's a lawyer. And so she's like, hey, just make sure you name both of them. Make sure you show up. If one of them doesn't show up, then you get an automatic judgment against the one that didn't show up.
Interesting.
I'm like, fascinating. I love it. So they both showed up, which is great. And the judge goes, none of y'all are going to like what I say. Go outside and fix it. And then come back in here and tell me.
Right.
And so
I love that, Judge.
Oh, it was great. And so my mom had told me they would do that. It's kind of like when you go to traffic court, like I took Levi up there, he got a ticket. And they're like, look, we're going to reduce the severity, but like double the fine. And he's like, I was like, say yes, say yes, say yes. He's like, I guess so. But funny part there, when we went up to pay, they're like, we don't take cash. I'm like, that's funny, a government organization not taking cash? I love it. The irony there, I love irony.
It is.
Yeah, so crazy. So Yeah, I have a lot of political irony I shouldn't put out there, but I have funny statements.
Always dangerous, but
Yeah.
I
So
appreciate
my
it.
funny two political ones are I will harsh on both the Democrats and Republicans. I don't have any harsh on the Libertarians yet, but I'll come up with something. So the Democrats are into universal health care from the cradle to the grave, if you can make it to the cradle. So it's like, that's weird. And then the Republicans are like into God, and hey, these guns might help you meet him sooner. So you're like, it's so weird. It should be like the guns and abortion people are together.
This is true.
I don't know.
This is true.
Yeah, so weird. Okay, so yes, I don't have short-term rentals either. I think at this point I'm probably too far into the game to swap. I'm good at what I do. Now, I would think that on a short-term rental, getting that cleaning crew / management company thing, a good one would be ideal. Like, that's probably going to be hardcore. Like,
for sure. And actually, my fiance Sharon, call up for Sharon here. Hey, has suggested just throwing that in from her perspective, since she's really owned that short-term rental prior to our being together and has some more experience. She said property managers, specifically if you can get on-site property management, which in her case it's a
rather large building.
It's a building with many units that are, most of them are used as vacation rentals. On-site property management's great, so that when things go bad, they're right there. But if you don't have on-site property management, having some sort of property manager, because you get people literally coming in and out every week, and you don't want to be picking up the phone all the time.
No.
So with a long-term rental, currently I don't use property management for either one of them, because I think, again, they're living there. They should be taking care of the place. We've done a thorough walkthrough beforehand. I've pointed out, like, okay, here's how you turn off the water if the toilet overflows. Hopefully they're there every day. They don't want to ruin the place. They want to, excuse my language, they don't want to shit in their own bed. So they want to take care of the place. Right. Because, if they screw it up, they're going to end up having to deal with the inconvenience of having
I think you're supposed to go that way. I think it'll come back together. That's okay.
Rerouting. Oops.
Yeah, whatever.
Sorry.
That's what happened. No, that's right.
Sorry.
We'll get more time to podcast.
Story, I forgot to Google. So
directions? We don't need directions. We're two men in a car. We'll get there eventually. You see that mountain right there? Head to that mountain. That's probably it.
That probably is
it.
Blood Mountain as we look
My
at
joke
it.
did actually pay off.
Nobody else can watch what we're...
Go that way.
Yeah. So, anyway, sorry for the 200 people that are listening to just ramble on. Especially people from Australia. That's really long.
Hello. So we do have family in Europe because of Verity's half British. And so I can get why people in Britain or in Europe would find us. It just says Europe. It just, the whole thing is Europe.
Love it.
But, okay. So short-term rental, I think, is great. There's some members at our gym that have short-term rentals. So if you're interested in that, let me know and I can hook you up with them. Aaron, as I mentioned, maybe I didn't even finish the story. Aaron Vincent and Matt Decker are looking into the idea of like an investment pool where they'll help organize the money.
Yep.
And then I would do the management of the property. So I keep everything pretty close. If I can't drive to it in 15 minutes, I'm not buying it.
Yep.
And I fix everything on my own.
I think that's actually smart. I think that's, for me, I'm an hour and a half away from my properties in Athens, and it can be a bit of a drag.
Right.
So at some point,
something's leaking. Like,
yeah.
Can you turn off the water?
Right.
I don't know how. Could you come all the way out here just to tell?
So I either have to move closer to Athens, Georgia, which is not going to happen, or I'm going to have to deal with that hassle, or I hire a property management company. Now, the nice thing with property management companies with long-term rentals is they don't charge as much. They charge you typically around 10% of your monthly rent. So if you charge $2,000 a month, $200 a month goes to them, regardless whether they pick up the phone or not. For short-term rentals, because of the chance of them having to pick up the phone is much higher based on the turnover, they're typically charging anywhere from like 20 to 30%.
Oh, wow.
So
does that include the cleaning as well? Or
that does not include the cleaning.
Dang.
That's just for them.
I'm a guy that lives in the mountains, and I'll be there to help your stuff.
Yes.
Wow.
So
that's a business I could get into.
I've told you, with your expertise, you would be an amazing property
So
manager,
it's not expertise, and I have a solution for those college kids. YouTube is great. So the hardest part about being a landlord used to be collecting rent and fixing things. I am an electrical engineer. I get it. I should be able to fix this stuff. But they didn't teach me how to wire a house or mess with the HVAC. That's not what they teach you, right?
Right.
But along comes electronic payments. So no longer do I get checks that bounce.
Yep.
Or like I had a guy.
Oh, you can still get checks that bounce.
Well, I don't allow him to give me checks.
Well, you could still get insufficient funds. My new tenants that I have in my one of my rentals in Athens, first month, just set up electronic payments. I get something through my payment processor, insufficient funds.
And you get charged for that. It's like $50 every time you get an insufficient fund.
They may get charged.
No, I think it goes to the person who draws, because as the gym, so I get charged on bank accounts, not credit cards. But if somebody put their bank account information in and we try to draw and it's insufficient fund, I get the first time's free, and then I'll try it again later on the next night. The second time is like $20.
Interesting.
And the third time is they add another 30. I'm like, what? I just paid $50 on a $150 membership fee for what?
I think that's potentially one of the fees that's covered in my lease. Okay. I also have a problem I have had in the past, since we're just kind of all over the place. Yeah. With tenants not paying on time. So it's due on the 1st, late on the 5th. Yeah. And that basically means
That means it's not due on the 1st, just so you know. It's due on the 1st and late on the 2nd.
This is true. Due on the 1st and late from the perspective of
fees.
I am eligible to start charging you a fee on the 5th. So thank you for
Which means
correcting
it's due on the 4th then.
Effectively, yes. So, so I've got so another way to also for students for student rentals to structure it so that you have a pretty good chance of getting paid is you do a payment guarantor on your lease.
Parents,
so on the parents or whoever can guarantee payment. That's why it's called payment guarantor. And so we learned about that. And so for student rentals, because students don't necessarily have a steady stream of income, you can get them to name a payment guarantor. My daughter, who's renting a apartment in Athens this year, has named her mom as a payment guarantor, right? To make sure. I know we have a 529 plan, so all the money just comes out of that. But just to guarantee that that landlord that they'll get paid, she is volunteered to be a payment guarantor. And the nice thing about a payment guarantor is they also guarantee that the tenants that they're guaranteeing will adhere to the terms of the lease outside of the financial terms. So basically says if the students tear the place up, I can go after the payment guarantor if I had to go to small claims court, because the students probably don't have any income. So that's another
I like that one.
Hot tip out there for anybody who's renting to students or otherwise people who don't have a steady form of income. Get a payment guarantor, and that helps too. And then you basically do the credit check and background check on both the tenants to make sure they're not knuckleheads, and then the payment guarantors, the parents, to make sure that they are financially sound.
So I've got some stuff on that one too, but as a bad friend, the only thing I latched onto was you have 2 properties in Athens, Georgia, and your daughter is renting from somebody else. I'm just...
Because we
don't have to go there.
This may sound a little heartless, but I am an entrepreneur, and you
can make more rent on
I can
other
make
people.
more rent. And that's how there was the snafu of the original townhouse that I got, that I was going to buy as an investment, rent to my daughter and her friend, and we did not have clear communication on what my daughter and her friend were going to pay. And I just simply, for that to be a good dad and also to make sure I wasn't out of pocket, said, well, if you can just match my expenses, basically, my costs for taxes and insurance and mortgage and stuff, I'm not going to make any money on you. I will just, break even and give you good housing and recognize that that's not a bad trade-off for the fact that you should be a good tenant because you're my daughter and I can track you down.
Right. If you can sue her guarantor, which is you.
Yeah. Wait, that doesn't work well. And then last minute after we got it and we had moved in some furniture for it and everything, she said, yeah, me and my roommate decided we don't want to pay that. We can get cheap student housing somewhere else on campus. You're done. And we were fairly upset about that. So we had to scramble last second. As it turned out, it was a great property, and we had tons of people that wanted to rent it and rent it for a price where we can make a profit.
Yeah.
So
you take a deep breath, you put your kid on your back with a backpack, and you hike up the mountain. right? He's just, whatever.
That's what some people do.
Yeah, you just take a deep breath. Wait. Oh, no. Okay, well, I guess he's slowing down.
Yeah,
he's
good.
big, though. That's a big truck. If he hit us,
that would hurt a little
he would
bit.
roll over us. Actually, he might fly over us. Those wheels are so big.
We're going to make it, folks.
Yeah.
All right, so we got 13 minutes till
We'll get there.
to
So
our hike.
the thing that I would say, though, on the contractual and stuff, so the hard part was collecting rents. Now they have PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, all that stuff. So people don't. I just tell them send me money. I don't directly deposit or I don't.
Yes.
I don't draw.
Yep.
So they have to send it. If they don't send it on the 1st, I usually give them till about the 5th. And but late fees start on the 2nd for me.
Well, I think it's good though to have in our lease. We strongly prefer electronic payments. We use a system called Avail, but there's lots of payment processors. Avail's a good one that just it works nice with. We could set up our leases in Avail for electronic signature. We could do payments, and it costs like $5 a month per property. It's pretty cheap.
So Zillow now does all that. It doesn't cost you anything.
All right. Well, I just saved myself $5 a month.
So that's the other thing. The tools are great. So I'm not an expert on fixing many things, but now YouTube, in about 15 minutes, makes me an expert on fixing just about anything.
Yes.
And I have saved tons of money. Like I had a renter call up and say, hey, my washer and dryer aren't working. I'm like, well, one, they're not mine. So I said, but I'll come over there and look at it. And so I took my voltmeter and plugged it into that's unique, turn in the middle of a bridge. I mean, you couldn't have picked a more inconvenient spot to make a U-turn.
But anyway, so
it's North Georgia. You turn wherever you want.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, went over the voltmeter, watched some videos, right? Went over there, plugged it in, like, hey, I'm getting 240 out of the outlet. It's not me, it's you, right? And then, so being a good guy, I was like, let me just quickly Google the model and how to do a hard restart. And so I did it, and I'm like, it's fixed. And I told her, it's not me, it was you.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's still you. I'm like,
and you didn't get any payment out of them, but you got some goodwill out of them.
No, not really. She doesn't. I don't know why, but she's like, I guess it all started with, hey, I think there's some animosity. I don't know how to fix it, but she pays, and I try to be super smiley. But I think it started with, I'm going to say it wrong, the GCFI button.
Yep.
And so if for some reason in your
GFCI.
bathroom, it used to be, I don't know, people would drop their electric hair dryers in their tub and kill themselves. How did that even happen?
Tough to do that these days with the GFCI.
Right, and
Unless
the outlet's
really
usually
trying.
further away.
Right.
And so the GFCI says, hey, there's a ground fault indicating circuit, and poof, it pops and turns off the power. So you're only mostly electrocuted. You're not super electrocuted.
Yeah, you just got to
and so she's
somewhat permanent purple afro for a while.
Yeah, and they're all, they can't all be connected. So if one bathroom pops, the other one will pop, and it just, whatever. Not usually, but sometimes, if they're wired poorly, like in some of our older homes. Anyway, so she's like, hey, the lights don't work. I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting. She goes, neither do the outlets. I'm like, oh, well, it's probably a GCFI button. Did you push it? She's like, yeah, sure did. I'm like, let me take a video of what I'm doing. And I actually went to mine and pressed it. And I was like, did you do that? She's like, sure. So whatever, I'll key in and go check it out. So I went in and pressed the button, and it worked. I'm like, so I videoed, and it's like, hey, so this is what I did. And I videoed it and pressed her button, and all the stuff came on, and I think that went downhill.
Yep.
So yes, I did mean it slightly snarky, but I said it with hey, this is Andy. I'm so fun and funny. Watch me press this button that I asked you 5 times to do.
You're 15 minutes away, so that wasn't for me. Hour and a half away, that would have pissed me off if I would have even driven 3 hours round trip to push the button.
Press the button.
Or called an electrician and have them be like,
press
your
the button.
tenant is an idiot. I pushed the button.
Well,
and I just,
the other one is the garage eyes. So they're like, hey, the garage won't work. I'm like, hey, when you press it, does it go boom, click, 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 click?
We literally just had that problem.
I'm like, that's the
ours.
eye. It's not the eye. I'm like, it is. Just readjust them.
Yep.
And so she took a picture of the eyes, and one of them's pointing down. I'm like, what do you think they're looking at? I'm like, let me. So anyway, I can now send video.
Yes.
So the hard parts about them are contracts, which Zillow now you can put it all on there.
Yep.
Zillow will actually tell you this is how much you should rent it for. Zillow will actually do. I'm like, this is so easy now. It's Zillow stupido. I don't know, whatever. It's super easy. So use Zillow.
Use Zillow. Use Google and YouTube to learn how to be a better landlord, and for a homeowner, you can learn all types of stuff. I replaced the ice machine motor in my freezer the other day. I was thinking, I'm gonna have to call somebody. It's like, let me just look up on the old YouTube. And I found out how to do it. Got the part off of Amazon.
Yep.
It was at my house in 48 hours, and I replaced it for like $50 versus God knows how much I would have spent if I would have had a electrician come out and mess around.
I am your electrician. Call me anytime.
This is true.
So I did the same thing in our refrigerator. It was not keeping cool, and so I was like, well, what are the most common problems? I ordered those parts. I think it was like $100.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, I installed them. It didn't fix it. And they're like, well, then it's probably you ran out of refrigerant. So like, well, how do I fix that? And for another like $50, I just bought the parts and did it myself. I'm like, whatever, it'll slow leak in another 10 years. I don't care. Or 5 years, I'll just fill it back up.
That's right.
So like, that's a cheap fix. Anyway. So yeah, fixing stuff yourself, I think is helpful. So let's do this. We're going to talk about the two ways you and I both bought our first houses. And I would
we definitely need to hit this topic because this is an area where you and I definitely don't see it eye to eye, and there's not a right or wrong here.
No, it's
we
not.
have different perspectives, and I'm happy to share my perspective, and I think you have some good points too. So let's jump into that.
Yeah. So one, I would start early. So like my brother said, hey, maybe I'll get into rental properties. I'm like, I don't know if I would do it now. Your time horizon's off, but you did, right? And you had the capital to do it. So. I started early and sort of on accident. I read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. And he's like, hey, any idiot can be a landlord. I'm like, hey, I'm like better than any idiot. I'm like one notch above. I'm like,
I'm already ahead of the game.
Yeah, I can do this.
Right.
And I was in sales, so I had commission coming in. I'm like, hey, what do you want to do with this commission? I also read Dave Ramsey's book, hey, get out of debt, use these, I don't use envelopes, but we would use bank accounts, so we put money in different places.
Yep. That's a great book.
Yeah, so we took our commissions and we started paying down our first house super aggressive. So what most people don't know is when you're on the mortgage table of 30 years, like the first 27 years is all interest. And the last 3 years, you're finally paying off the principal of your house.
Yep.
And if you prepay and you mark the check, well, back then it was a check, you mark the check for principal and you send it to them, it would move you further in the schedule. And because so much of it was interest, you would move like way down the schedule, right?
Yep.
So every check is more effective. So eventually we paid off the house we lived in as a dual income, no children, a dink. So both of us being, lucrative engineers, we paid that puppy off. And then we started having kids. And then we decided, hey, this house is too small, let's move. And so we started with our first house, which was paid off, but we kept collecting mortgage payments like we were paying mortgage.
Yep.
And knowing that eventually we would buy another house. So instead of selling the first house, we said, let's rent it and we will buy another house.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So, and then we were way ahead of the game on that house, and then we attacked that one as well. So we've always been after the idea of very low debt ratio and attacking. But the way we got started was, and I would recommend this to anybody, be a little smarter than me. Do what Glenn said, which is buy something that's a little bit distressed that you need to fix.
Yep.
Fix it up yourself, and then plan on moving out and make that one your first house.
Yep.
And then or if you can, attack the mortgage as fast as you can. It's amazing how fast you can pay a mortgage off if you actually care about it. If you're just doing the payments, it's not going to like move it. But make it a game. Put a thermometer up and say, hey, here we do paying off our debts, right?
That's kind of. So I bought these two properties, right before I turned 50, roughly around 50. They're on a 30-year mortgage, so we put roughly 25% down, pulled that out of just my personal savings, and got a 30-year mortgage. But my philosophy is the cash flow, the profit that I make after I pay for my mortgage and interest and taxes and homeowners policies and other miscellaneous things that I budget for, I take that and I put that down every month as extra principal,
right?
So that I can effectively convert that from a 30-year mortgage to a 15-year mortgage, because I want those things paid off by the time I'm 65, assuming I hold them till I turn 65. And then effectively I'll be where Andy is, where I have properties that have no debt. All that money is that I was paying to the bank is now coming in, and now I could take that money and, subsidize my retirement, or maybe use that as the payment for another house.
Right.
So I'm a big fan of doing what you suggested. I hate 30-year mortgages, but I like the concept of 30-year mortgages because it allows folks to get in, start building equity in a house very slowly at the beginning.
And with less risk. 15-year mortgage costs more.
Right. It costs more if you have a blip with your job or something like that. that could be tough to have to pay that mandatory 15-year mortgage payment every month. You effectively have an optional 15-year mortgage payment if you do a 30-year, and you just, hey, this month I've got a job, I've got the little extra money left over, or in this case, hey, I've got a little extra money left over from the cash flow that my renters are paying. I'm going to put that down towards the principal so I can convert this to a 15-year mortgage and get it off the books. So I completely agree with the concept of keeping your debt low. My perspective is, and I get this from a lot of the books, if you guys want to learn about real estate investing, the best thing you can do from my perspective, go to a website called biggerpockets.com. It's for professional real estate investors, lots of free information you can learn about. There's references to a ton of books that the folks that started that website, David Green, is one of them. He's got some amazing books on how to get into investing and kind of the ins and outs of investing in real estate and how to manage real estate. Where was I?
Well, your whole thing uses a formula. You're like, if the numbers, I put it in my calculation. If it makes sense, I'm in.
That's right.
If so it doesn't, I'm out.
Yep. So they basically have calculators on their website to help you understand if you're going to buy a piece of real estate based on what you're going to pay for it and what your mortgage is going to be, whether or not it's going to drive enough cash flow to be worth it or not. Because at the end of the day, where you really make money in real estate is on that initial purchase, right? So if you don't get the property at the right price, the numbers on how you're going to be paying it off over time versus much amount you're going to be able to get for rent are just going to be upside down
for a while.
And it's for quite some time, and you're going to be in a bad spot. So you really, I think for the two properties we bought, because we bought them, during kind of this seller's market, they're not amazing investments. They're what one of the authors on, or one of the podcast folks, also Bigger Pockets has a podcast, another plug for another good podcast.
Hey, they're listening to this podcast.
They probably are, but
stop.
I'm sure they're listening and learning all types of advice about all the important things in life. But yeah, so lots of ways for you to go ahead and learn. But at the end of the day, get yourself educated. Don't go out and just buy. The analogy I was trying to collect my thoughts there on is going back to the baseball analogy that you were talking about earlier. With real estate, not everything needs to be a home run. No. You can get some base hits. And at the end of the day, you get enough base hits, you start rounding the bases, right? So I would say both the initial properties that I bought in Athens, because I bought them in a seller's market and I probably paid a little bit more than I would have liked, they're base hits. I'm making some decent money off. Long term, I'll do really well. But they weren't home runs. And ideally, if you got into more of a buyer's market, you could drive a better deal when you buy the property and set yourself up for more of a double or triple or a home run, over a shorter period of time. So,
well, I think that's something that a piece, and this is going to sound super obvious, but it's so weird that I didn't consider this, yes, every deal making at least $1 is great, but the first house my initial house that we lived in, I think we rented it. We started renting it for $1,200 a month, and let's say the mortgage was, I don't know, $1,000 a month. I actually don't remember that, but let's just say I was making $200 above that, which isn't too great considering all the other stuff that goes into it. But I'm ahead of it, at least on the mortgage. In 30 years, if I had a 30-year mortgage, it would I bought the house in 2000, so I would still have a 30-year mortgage, right? The mortgage is still $1,000 a month. But that house on Zillow right now would rent for $2,400 a month. So, the rent will climb with the market. Now, some of your expenses do too, like to get stuff fixed costs more. The tax man wants more money and all that stuff. But what I do is anytime anybody moves out, I move the rents back up to wherever they're supposed to be. So this is probably why people stay with me for a long time, because I only do tiny raises. And every 3 or 5 years, somewhere in there, I'm like, okay, you've been there too long. I need to adjust this. But
I would suggest. I think that's nice for you to do that. But we've got one of the parents in guarantors for the student rental wants
they just wanted to back up a teeny bit. I don't know what that was.
They want to stay, but he said, are the rents going to be the same? And I went in and actually looked at, the increases in some of my variable expenses. My mortgage payment is obviously the same. My mortgage payment for principal and interest will stay the same, but my taxes went up. So the bank looked at that and said, all right, we're going to charge you an extra $30 a month to your escrow account. hazard insurance went up, and it's like, all right, that's an extra $10 a month. And then the HOA actually said, hey, we got to save up for a new roof eventually. We're going to start charging an extra $50 a month for the HOA, so we can start putting money away for a new roof for the common elements. So I just told him, it said, hey, my expenses are going up $100 a month. I'm not going to charge you more, but I need to cover my expenses so that I keep my, effectively my cash flow.
It's a business.
It's a business. And they were very understandable. I did that for the other property too. I said, I'm going to just bump it $100. And I'll be like, if you have questions, I can show you where my expenses have gone up. This is a partnership. Like I don't, let's be fair to each other.
In reality, it doesn't matter. I own the place. You don't. I'm going to do what I want.
Right.
But being, I think, fair and conscious, moral, whatever.
Karma, or doing the right thing in life is not a bad thing.
It never hurts to be nice.
I want to be a greedy landlord, but I want to make some money at the end of the day.
Okay, so here's,
in your case, I'd be careful about that.
You don't
want to be working for them.
No, right. And you're going to love this. Prisoner's dilemma. I just circled it back around. It is prisoner's dilemma, right?
Yep.
If I go for the ultimate I can in rent fees, I'm going to piss people off and lose out.
That's right.
If they go for the least they can pay and to destroy stuff, I'm going to kick them out.
Right.
So we both want second place.
Yeah.
We're like, look, you want the best and I want the best, which is second place for both of us.
Right.
And that's kind of how it ends. All right, let me hit some of these that maybe we didn't get into. So we talked about the freedom of being your own entrepreneur, your own person is not all that freeing all the time because I just barely made today work.
Yep.
So some people will say, use other people's money. I say, make a lot of money and then use it smartly. So you have and had lucrative jobs to save and just be smart with money.
Yep.
So I was in a sales job and got money, like randomly got an awesome budget cycle spending. And so I got a really large check and we're like, I don't know, let's pay our house off because the Bible says be out of debt. And Dave Ramsey said it too.
Yep.
So be smart with your money. You can use other people's money, and that's totally cool. You just increase the risk in case things go wrong. Like Dave Ramsey got his start in the debt-free guy because he had millions of dollars in rental properties in California.
Yep.
When somebody else bought the bank, they're like, who's this 25-year-old who has like $25 million in rental property? We're going to call those loans in. And so it ruined him. And so you have to manage your own risk, right?
This is true. There's higher risk with debt. The nice thing with debt, though, is it's nice with real estate. And again, you can go to some of the books and some of the podcasts on Bigger Pockets. You don't have to believe me, but they'll kind of teach you that philosophy. Using leverage or other people's money to run business is how all businesses, most successful businesses survive. If they don't have capital, they go borrow someone else's capital to use it to make more money than the costs. Now there is risk with that. If your business goes under, you've got all this debt. Now you've got to figure out how to pay for it. So,
well, if you're young, file chapter 7 or 11 or 22 or whatever it is. I'll just start over.
This is true.
But if you're 50, they're going to come after everything.
Yeah. But real estate typically doesn't go down. I mean, there are things like happened in 2008 where things can go really south. But if you take good care of your property, it will typically maintain value. So it's a safe asset that typically doesn't depreciate. I mean, there are
which is
markets and things like that.
Right now with all the inflation, park your money somewhere.
Right.
Typically houses go up.
Yeah, houses are a good, real estate is a good hedge against inflation. So in today's market, it's smart. And just a quick math problem on why it's smart to use other people's money. So let's say you buy a $250,000 property, right?
We can walk and do this too. You want to walk and do it?
Yeah, we can try.
Let's try to walk. Okay. Right. So you do math because you said math and it scared me.
Okay. All right. So we're for folks that are listening, we're transitioning out of the car and into the woods. So we went some weird sounds.
We'll see what happens. I may actually turn this off on accident, being a moron, which I typically am. Okay, so do your math.
So you buy a property, let's say for $250,000, and you put in the States, for folks who are listening internationally, usually a bank would want an 80 to 20 loan. I
love that you had to say for people
ratio.
Who are listening international.
Because we're we have an international presence today.
Yeah.
So in that, for those folks that can do the simple math, that's $50,000 US dollars or whatever your currency is. So I'm not going to say what I bought the property for, but I paid 20% for this property. For let's say for the sake of the
use like 100 because those are easy. 100.
All right, $100,000 property, you put $20,000 down, right? The nice thing about using leverage is real estate tends to go up in value year after year, and typically in a normal year you may see anywhere from like a 3 to 6%. Some markets, like some in the States recently, have been, crazy appreciation. And sometimes you're going to get, prices will go down. But typically, on average, real estate's going to go up about 3 to 6% a year. So what type of investment can you put in $20,000 but get a return on the full initial value property? So in this example, I put $20,000 down,
Right.
and let's say it's an average market and the house appreciates 5%. I just made, at least on paper,
Right.
$5,000 on a $20,000 investment. That's a 25% return,
Right.
as opposed to if I put that $20,000 in the bank and made a 5% return. If you do the math on that, that's $1,000, right? So
if your bank doesn't close down.
if your bank doesn't close, now again,
They're insuring everybody's assets.
right.
So,
This is the difference between Andy and I, a non-debt guy versus a debt guy. But the concept of leverage and using other people's money to make money in the case of real estate is nice. So every year, my $100,000 property on average is going up by $5,000. I'm making 25% on
Right.
my $20,000
Right.
that I basically plopped in there. That's pretty good. You don't
and if
need
you
that.
wanted to, you can get your 20,000 out.
I can get my 20. Now, real estate's not as liquid as if I would have put it in like the stock market or in the bank.
But water, hydration, because that's
Exactly.
liquid.
Different type of liquid.
Did you
But
lock it?
that's what I like about it is that it's a nice, at least on paper, are you done it?
I'm done in there. Do you have
Okay.
keys?
I have keys in my pocket.
Oh, they're falling out.
Yeah, they are falling out.
Yeah.
So that's what I like about it is using other people's money to make more money than I could make if I was just using my own money.
Right.
If that example makes sense.
It does. And that's, so I guess that's the trick of it then is, so don't be nervous about getting started. Pick a plan and start. And I would say that.
I would say Andy's example makes a lot of sense if the debt thing and the risk associated with that is scary for you. The only trick with that is it's going to take longer to save up $100,000 to buy that property.
Right.
Then in my case, I was able to start making money with $20,000 on that property.
And
I assume a higher risk and my expenses are higher. I need to, for my rent that I charge every month, I have to cover the debt service on that $80,000 loan.
Right.
Whereas Andy has none of that. It's coming, but it may
maybe
take,
not none, but yes, let's talk, let's make
you don't have any debt service. You still have expenses. You still have taxes and insurance and maintenance and things like that. But, so, is there a right or wrong? We just have a different perspective. I like the concept.
I think it's a starting point.
Yeah.
It's a
Especially
starting point.
when
And then
rates are low. Now rates in the United States recently went up pretty significantly. And so it makes that math a little bit harder. You're still getting the appreciation on the property, but your interest on your debt service is so high that it may make it hard unless rents are going up to cover that extra interest you're paying.
True.
But when I bought these properties, I got them around 4% interest, which wasn't bad. So the math worked out okay. So my base hit properties are doing okay.
Yeah, and so I think that's the key there is if you can do it without emotion and you have a formula, it doesn't matter what the interest rate is.
Right.
Use the formula.
Yep. It's all about using the formula. And again, go to Bigger Pockets. They've got rental calculators and you plug all that in there. You plug, what is my down payment? Are you doing a cash deal or are you doing a finance deal?
Right.
What is your interest rate? What are your assumptions about would you be paying in property taxes, insurance? You can calculate those pretty easily from trip over some routes here. We were making our way up the Appalachian Trail here.
Is this legit? Did we just start? I thought we had to go to mountain crossings first. We don't need to do that?
This is the side trail, and in a minute we will be on the official Appalachian Trail. So now this is a shortcut.
The rhododendron tunnel.
Yes.
This is what I was talking about before. So let's say, my advice to anybody just coming out of college would be, actually, let me back up. If you're at high school and you're wondering, what do I do with my life? Pick the job that makes you the most money, even if you don't particularly, or the degree, even if you don't particularly think it's awesome, because if you can make a ton of money and put them in houses, then you can just do whatever you want, whenever you want.
That's right.
So you could live miserly on high salary. So a software engineer or computer science major is going to make way more than, I don't know, primary education, like elementary school teacher.
Well, and I'm going to do a plug here also. We're going a little off topic, but not everybody has to go to a university or college. I think
that is true.
There are ways to make another thing that they're starting to do better on with at least high schools here in the States is advocating for vocational careers. So that's like a career in
you can be a welder
or plumbing
I heard
or
somebody was saying
electricians.
a welder make like $120,000
incredible amount of money. Yeah, you could be a trucker. You could be all types of things where maybe you're not book smart. Maybe college isn't for you, but you're really good with your hands and you're really good with other skills that other people aren't. You can do fantastic. You don't have to say, hey, I've just graduated from high school. Maybe college isn't for me. You don't have to go out and flip burgers at a restaurant. You just have to apply yourself in a different type of education to make a very lucrative career. So
well, and
I'll leave that out there for the parents of high school kids who they don't think necessarily their kids are, encourage them to look into vocational training.
Or you could, do vocation. Let's say it takes, I don't know, a year or two to get through with whatever that apprenticeship is.
Yep.
And then you get into welding. Maybe, I don't know, let's just go with some good numbers. You start at welding at $80,000. Kid coming out with an engineering degree is probably starting at $80,000.
Yep,
but
exactly.
The 4-year degree for engineering takes about 6 years.
Yep.
So,
and a lot of,
and now you're 4 years ahead of them on 80 grand moving up. So you've got 320,000.
Right. And maybe you don't have a college debt. A lot of kids are going in. That's another frustration.
Right.
A lot of people are going to college and they're getting degrees that aren't necessarily marketable. They're not getting an engineering degree. They're getting a degree in something that the market doesn't have.
Museum curation.
There you go.
Like, that is not a degree, is it? Like, no, seriously, it is. I'm like, wait,
probably not a lot. There's a limited number of jobs out there. Only so many museums. No,
that need curating.
Yeah, no dig on museum curators.
I'm digging.
Probably not a high-paying job, and probably not a lot of jobs.
I think when you get there, it's high-paying if you can get that job. But to get those few boss curation jobs, is super tough.
So
I would tell somebody like, okay, you're going into college or out of college, whatever. You're starting that I'm 24-ish.
Yep.
What do I do?
What do I want to do?
I would say, go get a semi-distressed property outside I bought in Woodstock. Mostly way back in 2000, they're like, you're going to go to Woodstock, dummy. And now they're like, wow, Woodstock is awesome.
Yep.
So the next place up from us is Ball Ground.
Yep.
Well, I've been talking to my kids about this and saying, where do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? You could be free with your time or whatever.
Yep.
Let other people pay you, etc. And they're like, well, the houses in Woodstock cost too much. I'm like, sure. They're like, so we could move further out? I'm like, yeah, because why? They're like, it's cheaper. I'm like, that's it. Because there's nothing there. There's no infrastructure. There's no Walmart and whatever.
Yep.
And well, maybe there is in Ball Ground. I don't know.
But you don't want to get too far out, because if there aren't people there, if there are people that aren't working in that area, you may end up buying a property in an area where you just don't have a lot of.
Right. Be smart with it. Like, hey, I'm not going to move to in between. I don't know. Rome and Chattanooga.
Yep.
Well, who's there? Well, nobody, and nobody's moving there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the natural progression from Marietta was Kennesaw, and then Kennesaw was Woodstock.
Yep.
And the Woodstock, the only town north of us is Ball Ground.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably where people go. But anyway, so I would say find a location that you think is up and coming.
Yep. And there's resources.
Fix it up a little bit.
Resources you can use on, again, Bigger Pockets or other websites that'll government census data around how people are moving. In the States, a lot of people are moving out of states like New York and California, or moving into certain
Just go ask a real estate agent.
Or go talk to a real estate agent.
I'm going to buy a house. This is what I want to do. So I use this guy, and I because I'm 50, I can't remember his name, but I bought almost all my houses through him.
Yep.
And I said, I'm looking for a real estate agent that has rental properties.
Absolutely.
And because they know what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
And so he only brought me stuff. He's like, this is something you would like. I'm like, okay. I said, why didn't you buy it? He's like, because it's not my thing, but I know it's your thing.
Yep.
That house isn't my type of house. I'm like, all right.
Yep.
So anyway, having a person that specifically does this for you is key. Or better yet, go get your real estate license, do it like for funsies.
Yep.
And then go find your own house and pay your own self, right?
That's right.
Or as you said, become I'm a repair guy for other people's properties.
Yep.
Good morning. How's it going? Good. So anyway, I would say get a house, fix it up,
Yep.
fight to pay it off while you're there, make it a game, get some roommates. If you could pay it off, great. Even if you can't, move, put somebody else in it.
Yep.
Use their money to start paying that stuff off.
Yep. Couple options there. Go ahead and buy a multifamily property.
Oh yeah.
Duplex, house hack as they call it.
I feel like those are hard to come by now. Everybody knows that trick.
Yeah, they are. They're a little harder to come by because of that. But if you can find the property, and again, talk to your real estate agent. House hacking is effectively living in one side and renting out the other. And if you can find one and make the math work, conceptually, your tenant on one side is paying for a portion or subsidizing potentially all of your expenses on the other side.
Right.
So
that's exactly it. And that's, yeah, I think.
And now you're living pretty cheap.
My dad started that way in North Carolina. And then he tried to maintain that rental property.
Yep.
When we moved to California. He's like, yeah, let me sell it.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be tough depending on your life. So.
He had some fun stories. It's like North Carolina dead of winter. And they're like, hey, something's wrong with the HVAC. So he goes over there all bundled up, knocks on the door, opens it, and they're in like Hawaiian shirts and shorts. And he's like, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. You literally can only heat the house up so many degrees.
That's true.
And they're already in short sleeves,
The joy of tenants, yes.
Yeah. So that would be my advice: is buy something, fix it up, get some roommates, nail down the debt, live risk-free, or get very close to it, move on to another house. So be mobile. Buy folding chairs as your furniture. Yep. Not really, but
just figure out a way to
be mobile.
Be flexible, be open-minded. And slow and steady wins the race. So
that's it. We said, hey, look, you full circled it.
Yep. So if you take the opportunity to start young, and you get into that property and get to be old farts like us, the appreciation on that property and just the slow and steady approach you're taking will provide an asset when you're older that could change your life.
And I think if you have the calculator like you had, also have some foresight. So I'm just going to use round numbers because I can't. There's 12 months in a year and that messes me up. So let's say you have a property and they're renting at $1,000 a month. That's, I know it's 12,000.
Yep.
But I'm just going to call it 10,000 because you had to pay for stuff and you had paid it off. So that's 10,000 a year.
Yep.
If you had 10 houses, that's 10,000 a month.
Yep.
That doesn't suck.
No, it doesn't.
And it's not a ton of houses that I have to keep up with and repairing.
That's right.
But I think some of the things you trade out is like when we did our Sarasota trip, y'all were talking about 401ks and all that. Mm-hmm. I don't have I kind of have a 401k when I work for the man.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's been wrecked and ruined.
You could do a SEP IRA or something like that.
But yeah, so everything I've got is in rental properties.
Yep.
So I suppose my eggs are all in one basket-ish. Mm-hmm. Though I think
it's a pretty safe basket.
Historically, it's like
it's pretty safe.
Very
basket.
low risk.
Yep.
So it's not a bad basket to be in.
Nope.
You don't have to be super liquid.
No.
You don't have to be a Superman or super like repair dude or anything.
And I will say, just to interrupt you there.
Yeah.
Do be smart and keep a rainy day fund.
Oh yeah.
A liquid rainy day fund. I think they say roughly 50% of adults in the United States
have nothing.
If their car broke down and they had to pay $200 to have the car towed or have the tire replaced, would not be able to afford it. So
that's a whole conversation I need to probably have with Aaron is what are the smart plays? Because if you want to be, I would title this podcast something, instead of CrossFit Garage, I'll change it eventually to how to live a resilient life, something like that.
There you go.
But yeah, maybe that is the title. The first thing you do is get 3 months of backup.
Yeah, at least three. Then you start, 6 months would be better.
6 months would be better. Yep. And then you start tackling your debts.
Yep.
Get out of debt. Stop subscribing to stuff.
Yep.
And look at your statements every month. You could download them into Mint or YNAB or whatever. and actually look at what you're spending on.
Yeah, exactly. That $6 Starbucks coffee you're doing every day or every other day.
So do you know it costs about $6 to be a day, or maybe $7 a day to be a member at our gym?
There you go.
And some people are like, dang, that's a lot. As they walk in with a $7 coffee, you know, from Starbucks that they buy every day.
That could have paid for your
I'm
membership,
like,
right?
look.
Well, it's those micro expenses that they catch up. It's all the things that you've, you know, all your subscriptions that you're paying for every month.
Right.
Maybe you only use once or twice. Go back and look at that on your statement and be like, do I really need this? I mean, yeah, maybe it's only $25 a month, but you knock enough of those out, you can afford something that really is important to you every day, like a CrossFit membership,
or
whatever it might be.
You take a hobby like, hey, we're hiking in the woods. That's pretty cheap. It's not skydiving.
There you go.
Don't pick up skydiving. Yeah. Now, I would say, okay, well, Andy, should I cut all of my expenses? Yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't know. It's up to you. Also, what gives you joy?
Focus on the expenses that are meaningful.
Yeah, that's right.
Cut out the ones that are trivial.
If somebody said, I can't afford CrossFit, well, fine, you don't have to do it. It's just a solution to a problem.
Right.
It happens to give me a lot of things that I didn't expect, like community and whatever. Although I am breathing heavy right now.
Yeah,
already.
We are going
that was a steep ascent. That was pretty steep.
That was just a side trail.
That was. It was.
I
mean, the side trail was straight up. Be smart with it.
Yeah.
Be intentional, even with the change. And it's fascinating what you can do, right? Play the game of, hey, let's pay off my mortgage. Let's pay off my debt.
Yeah.
And it'll free you up. So
going back to that example, if you took that $6 a day you're paying for Starbucks, $200 a month roughly, and you put that $200 towards your mortgage payment principal every month, an insane difference. Now, I mean, a Starbucks coffee is pretty awesome, but maybe you don't.
You can make it yourself.
You can make it yourself, or maybe you just cut back to doing every other day. You know, just small adjustments.
Right. That's correct. So back into let's say I'm 50 and I'm deciding to get into the real estate market now because it seems like banks are stupid and the investments are weird.
Yep.
You have this down. You started later in life. What would you tell people how to get started later?
Well, like I said, go ahead and don't go ahead and be so excited about investing in real estate that you're making bad choices. Be disciplined. Use a website like Bigger Pockets or a real estate agent like professional like Andy was talking about that understands real estate investors and what makes sense. And be disciplined. Take your time. You don't have to find it right away, but when you're ready, figure out what your plan is. Do you want to, are you okay with, taking on a little bit of risk, maybe through some leverage of a loan?
Right.
Do you want to save up and buy that property with cash? And again, we've discussed the pros and cons of that. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, but different perspectives. So.
Yeah, I can buy one house for 100 or five houses at 20% down.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So.
And that is true. I'd probably say that's the biggest thing. When I'm young, take more of a risk.
Yes.
When I'm older, really understand what those risks mean to you. Like if everything went to crap and you went back to zero, how happy would you be?
Yep. So, do think about the worst possible and be realistic.
Right. Yeah.
You don't have to assume that it's going to be an Armageddon scenario because chances are it won't be. But figure out what the reasonable risks are, and are you okay accepting those risks? And if you're not, that's okay. And I would say, to Andy's point, as you get older, definitely err on the side of being a little more cautious because you have less time. Assuming you want to retire at a reasonable age, you don't want to make a mistake. It's going to cost you an extra 10 to 15 years of your retirement.
Right. Hey, I got to work a little longer. So. Okay, so I would also give you guys, in the end, it's really not that hard. The hard part is the money part.
Yep.
Fixing a house, collecting money, having contracts, knowing where to rent. The internet has made it super valuable, which is why I tell my kids, hey, if you can do computer science, do it, or something like that, because it's the application of all the data that's available.
Yep.
I mean, Zillow did nothing fancy except take the MLS and make it accessible to us.
That's right.
And then they just correlate data. You should rent your house at $2,400. I'm like, okay, thank you. Yeah, so smart place to be in. Let's see. I think that pretty much covers it.
Did we figure out all the mysteries of the world?
That's next. That's the answer to
that
life,
the
the
next
universe,
episode?
and everything
Okay.
is 42.
All right.
Yeah, you should know that since you went to tech.
That's true.
I do want to eventually, like I said, change the name to, I don't know, what did I say? I have to go back and listen to that. Self-reliance, or living a good life even if times are bad or even if they're not, or I don't know, something. But there are so many lessons that I wish we could teach kids.
Yeah. Well,
don't stick your own tongue in the socket. Listen to this. But
there's probably a lot of things we've talked about today that people are listening and be like, well, that makes complete sense. But there may be a couple things that you didn't think about. And you're like, maybe that's something to noodle on. If there's just one or two things you get out of it, then hopefully it wasn't time wasted.
Yeah, and I'm happy to so weirdly, a podcast where the guy doing it, Andy McCann, the guy doing it is happy to talk to people live. So my phone number, maybe mistakenly so, is all over my website.
Yeah.
So if you'd like to chat about this or health and fitness or Bitcoin or whatever, text me, call me. Actually, give me some reference if you're going to text me what it's about. I'm happy to talk. Email, whatever. I'm actually usually better on email, but don't go it alone. Have a coach or a mentor, give you some guidance. Obviously, Glenn has got his sprinkled the love.
Yeah, sprinklescapital.com. If I can be of help, please reach out to us on the website, and happy to answer any questions or
help you invest. Really not just help, but like actually take a first step.
Yeah, if you want to partner at something, or I'm happy just to provide some helpful advice for those getting started.
I'm advice only. I'm not partnering.
Fair enough.
I have learned the hard lesson of partnering is really tough.
Yeah, partnering is not,
But here's what I've learned. Every single partnership I've ever been in, I'm the common denominator. So I'm fully okay saying I am the problem in the partnership.
That's big of you.
Yeah. So it's perspective.
I'm going to take a wild guess that you're not always the problem, but that's very humble of you to say.
Maybe. I just say it starts with you.
Yeah.
Figure yourself out. Okay.
There you go.
So last thing for you, if you had a billboard on Interstate 85 or 400, since that's where we probably drive, and you could put any message up to the world of anything, whatever it is, name out the world, but anybody driving on 400, what message would you give them?
Wow, that's pretty deep. I don't know if I'm
It doesn't have to be deep.
I don't know if I'm prepared for that. It's a little bit of
you can pick your friends, you can pick your nose.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a cliche, but the old adage, kind of live your best day every day. You don't really know what coming around the corner, especially as you get older. You know, things happen. I've got a lot of friends who are getting up to our age that are going through medical problems, people who are in perfectly good shape, but things just cancer. And
do you know what the two common, I guess they're common. The two leading causes of death currently are?
I would probably guess cancer and heart disease.
Yes, in the other order. Okay. So heart disease first, totally preventable.
Yep.
Just go exercise.
Yep.
That's what I do.
Yep.
Hey guys,
Absolutely.
help. Cancer, maybe not as preventable, but they say...
And you don't have to join a CrossFit gym to that. No. Just go walk.
You can just go walk.
Just keep active.
Climb Blood Mountain. Or walk it. We're not really climbing it.
Yeah, that might be a little more on the aggressive side. You could start with walking.
Yeah, so mailbox.
Walk to your mailbox.
Mailbox challenge. Just go one and then one more, and find out where you're tired. Cancer, reduce the sugars and processed foods. That probably helps.
Yep,
You could probably Google that. You know what the third one is currently? It just moved back up to its normal sitting place.
Probably something like car accidents or something like that.
Yes, kinetic impact.
Yep.
So that
kinetic impact. That's an interesting way.
Yeah. So it's anything that's forcibly maneuvering your body in a way you didn't want.
There you go.
Not chiropractics.
Yep.
That's
nothing against chiropractors.
Yeah, that's a little more gentle. That's good for you. And then the third one is, of course, that thing. I'm not sure if we say it out loud if I get banned, so I won't say it out loud.
Yep. Okay.
And but the percentages on those, the first two are like 90%.
Yeah.
And 3 is like, well, it can't be 10%, but it's something really small.
Yep.
And 4 is even small, right? So the distribution is not bell-shaped curved.
Yeah. And I mean,
more like telephone shape.
I think there's a lot of people out there that maybe are in not the greatest of fitness, and they're like, well, where do I get started? Just again, consistency. That's a lot of people that I know, including this guy right here, Andy, have gotten in shape, not because they went out and climbed a mountain on day one. They just went out and they just started moving, and they do it consistently.
You just show up.
Just show up and do something every day. And we've got a couple friends that have been on this podcast who are trying to get into into better fitness,
Yep.
and they're doing the same thing. They're just doing the mailbox challenge,
Yep.
or they're just walking. And then once they start feeling better, maybe they go into a light jog, or they
Right.
do something a little more aggressive. But you're doing it every day or every other day. You're being mindful that
Right.
you got to get off your butt and do something. And
So I feel like there's a lot of overlap between your health and your fitness.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Yeah, of course. Yes.
they're synonymous, but
Yes. Let me restate that. Your health and fitness and financial investments.
yes.
So the compounding effect of daily investment is noticeable on both of them. Play it smart on both of them.
Yep.
Only take risks when you're younger. Bungee jump when you're younger. Don't bungee jump when you're
I wouldn't say
70.
don't take risks when you're
manage the risks appropriately.
Yeah, you can be a little bit more liberal
Buy
with
that
your risk when
insurance.
you're younger.
Yeah.
But when you get older, you got to really start kind of factoring in the type of risks you're willing to take. Still take risk. Life's too short to not do something. But this is a risky us walking up the Blood Mountain Trail here.
That is very true.
It's a manageable risk, and
As
so we're doing it.
Cam signed off with, he said, my friend Stanley, I actually don't remember what his name was, says he wants to die at the age of 90 by the hands of a jealous husband.
I love it.
I'm like, all right, I don't know how to work that into anything I do, but
It's good to have a life
yeah.
plan.
Our motto for the gym is we are happy, humble, helpful people who want to be healthy and fit now, as well as in our 90s.
Love it.
So that's why when people walk down the Woodstock Alley, Main Street, they're not saying, wow, Andy, you're so big. You look like you're on steroids. Because in my 90s, I still want to be around.
Yeah.
So don't do stupid stuff.
Yep. Smart.
Okay, guys. It's been fun. Glenn, thanks for joining me on this. And
Yeah, I think that's probably
start to
it for-
go- we're gonna run up to the top
I'm
now.
starting to get a little winded
Yeah.
for those who couldn't figure it out. So this is probably a good time to sign off. And I don't
Right.
think I really have anything else to say.
oh, we have a lot. We just don't. Later on tonight, you'll be like, oh, I should have said.
Right.
I do that on every one of these. So. All right, guys. It's been good. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, folks.
CrossFit Copa, all you guys that are listening for Cam, thank you for taking care of him. He's one of our good buddies, and he's loving what you're doing. I think he didn't mention it, but his resting heart rate in under 3 months has dropped from 70 beats per minute to 50 beats per minute. So
Wow.
you guys are improving lives and saving lives over in Athens, Jefferson County, 1% at a time, one workout at a time. If you're in the Woodstock area, look us up. We're CrossFit Garage, currently the name of the podcast. I also am on Nostr, if anybody knows what that is. Look up Woodstock GA. And we do accept Bitcoin if you want to join and pay in Bitcoin.
Yes.
It is crazy, but we do. We also have a YouTube channel, which is titled, weirdly, Andy McCann. Because back in 2008, when they started it, I just put my name in there and I didn't know what was happening.
And you can't change it?
I probably, I don't know if I can. So that podcast is a little bit more visually, that format is a little bit visually stimulating because it's video. And so things like the chickens and the ducks and the power, the solar panels, all that.
I must say, I think that episode probably is more entertaining than this one, but hopefully people learned a few things on this
Well,
one.
sometimes you got to learn.
So, yeah.
Yeah. All right,
Can always
guys.
be entertaining.
Signing off.